Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch a Track podcast presented by the Dude and Grim Show and co-produced by Mr. IVEST. I am the Dude.
And I am Grim. And today we are going to discuss one of our favorites. Dude, hold it up so they know what it is. In Rainbows by Radiohead. And you might ask yourself, why, Grim, do you have this weird looking box? Well, that has to do, I'm going to set it down for now. That has to do with the way that Radiohead...
I'm getting tired of holding this.
Yeah, that's what she said. Released it. And so when they released it, I believe it was the first, because they self-released it, as well as, I think, for the print copies, they used XL recordings, I believe. But for the self-release bit, there were several options, I remember, when this came out in 2007. And you could basically name your price. You could go on the website and put in $0 and you would just get the download, or you could pay whatever you wanted. Now, I remember getting the download and putting in $0 because I went back and I got the deluxe edition that they made at the time, which I think was over $100. And aside from the amazing packaging, this thing contains the album on two 12-inch 45 records, which is kind of a bummer. Based on the time of the album, you could easily have put this on 133, and I
have.
Yeah, and I don't know why you wouldn't do this. But this huge full-page color booklet with all the artwork, and we'll get into the artwork later. But the other thing that's cool are these two CDs that you may well see. And the CDs, the first one is the album, and the second one is a collection of extras that they recorded during this period.
Disc 2.
Yeah. And I think a lot of them, honestly... I would say that I almost like that second disc as much as the album. It's real close.
Dude, there are some really good songs
on it. There's a lot of really good
songs
on it.
I remember years before, of course, being on like whatever LimeWire or whatever like pirating downloading software I could find and looking for just searching like live Radiohead. And they had been on tour and they had, I think it was around Hail to the Thief time. And that's when we found a bunch of just different songs. Like I think we found like Punch Up at a Wedding and I Will, and a bunch of things off Hail to the Thief. But I found an early version of Up on a Ladder, which is really killer. Like that live version's awesome. And I think it's great on the album as well. But the live version that I found is just, it's a little rockier, a little harder and everything. And I was a huge fan of that.
Well, on this extra version, you have Mark 1, Down is the new Up, which is good. Go Slowly, Mark 2, Last Flowers. It's just called Last Flowers, but it's Last Flowers to the Hospital, as I think most Radiohead fans would know it. Up on the Ladder, dude, Bangers and Mash is also awesome. And then 4 Minute Warning. And I will say it was worth it for that. I mean, that's a good bonus thing to have.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was a really cool disc. Now, I don't believe that was available right at that point for download. I think it was only available for people like you, Grim, who actually got that kind of special edition and purchased it. I do remember it becoming available later, or I got it through you. I'm not exactly sure the timing on that. But it was cool. And I just remember this kind of, there were rumors about this album coming out, and they had put little things on their website, little clips and snippets and everything. But, it's interesting, man, because this album is one of the ones where, they talked about it and they actually almost broke up. Like when they were first in the studio and starting to record this, it wasn't going very well.
No,
because they decided to self-produce it at first.
Dude, and it's funny you bring that up because I remember when this came out and it had been what, four,
about 3 or 4
4
years.
years since Hail to the
2003
Thief.
was Hail to the Thief. Yep.
And I think a lot of people thought this might be their last album. You know, I mean, I just, you didn't know, but just the way that these things work, I mean, I think there was a very realistic possibility at the time that this could have been it. And so I think the fans were waiting for it to come out, and then you listen to it, and it doesn't sound like a band's last album. It's a really good album. That's, you know,
Right.
It's not just like
A lot of people think it's one of their best. Once you get past, you know,
Dude.
OK Computer and Kid A, I hear a lot of people, a lot of fans saying that it's kind of their favorite album apart from those two.
I don't know if I would necessarily say that, but I get it. That's what I will say. I definitely get it. Because there are some tracks on here that, in my mind, they maybe had things that had elements of it or were kind of like it, but it was different and special, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I felt, because, you know, obviously we love OK Computer and Kid A. I think we had an episode earlier this year where we kind of ranked our Radiohead albums. I like Amnesiac and not a lot. To me, it's not on par with Kid A or OK Computer. But then Hail to the Thief, again, I like Hail to the Thief, but Hail to the Thief was just like all over the place. I mean, it's great, and I like it for that, because I mean, this is my favorite band and I just love them. But Hail to the Thief was kind of all over the place. Whereas I felt like with this album, it was a little more concise, a little more kind of in the same, I don't know, it had the same similar feel to it. I mean, there's a few songs where you could say, okay, they're a little bit outliers, but I felt like it's part of the same family a little bit more.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think there was a lot of consistency in it. But a lot of sounds that in a way for them were more raw kind of than they had been in the past. And I guess for me that really, and I don't necessarily want to get into the tracks, but when I think about some of the more acoustic stuff and then Bodysnatchers, it's just kind of more raw than some of the other stuff.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. You know, they didn't, I guess I feel like they didn't go as far out as they did maybe with Hail to the Thief. Like there's no songs like The Gloaming on this, right? Or Where I End and You Begin or something like that, where it's like, man, I just feel like those are kind of like really far out there. With this one, I just feel like they played kind of in the same house the whole time. Like I don't know.
And I guess one thing that makes me think about that too is there was a lot of talk, I guess, in reviews, and maybe not even reviews, but band interviews, about the fact that Hail to the Thief, even in title, is a very political album. And this really wasn't. It was more of kind of an interpersonal album in terms of the content of the lyrics. So it already feels different, right?
Yeah. I think Tom even said, like, on Hail to the Thief, there was more anger in Hail to the Thief. Where this album, I feel like you get into some deeper emotions, and you can tell there's melancholy kind of songs and some sadness, and they bring back, you know, even the song Nude, which has been around for a while, and we've known that as, you know, at the time under a different title, but that song, and you know, and we'll get into the tracks, that song had always kind of been this kind of a mystery track, and fans had, you know, it was kind of this underground kind of thing. Like,
if you knew Radiohead, you knew about that, but not everyone
exactly
did.
Exactly. So you know, another thing too is, I mean, one, they had all taken time off after the Hail to the Thief tour. I think a few of them had kids. Like I think there was that 3 or 4 year period where they kind of just matured a little bit.
Life changed a lot in that.
For them. Yeah. And so also another huge thing is, I think they finally felt like they could relax a little bit because their contract with EMI was done.
Yes.
After Hail to the Thief.
That's a good point.
huge step for them. It's like, we have no contractual obligations.
You can do what you want.
Do what we want. And I'm sure there was a lot of relief from that. Like, hey, there's no expectations. We're going to focus on our own stuff. We're going to focus on our side projects and things. And, Johnny went and he started doing soundtrack stuff. I think Tom put out his solo album in between these ones, maybe. Mm-hmm. I know he had one around this time. And, it was just kind of like everybody was doing their own thing. And then they got back into the studio and they were going to self-produce this one. Yeah. And they started off self-producing it, and it did not go well. Like, they just, they were getting frustrated. Things were taking a long time. They were recording it themselves. And, there's kind of, from what I hear, and there's two different things, like Ed said one thing, Colin said another. Basically, Ed O'Brien said that, their producer, Nigel Godrich, he had produced like all their stuff up until this point and worked with them. But he was doing a Beck album, and then there was somebody else he was working on. And so I guess he just, I don't know, maybe didn't have time or whatever arrangement they were going to have. So then they brought in this other guy, Spike Stent, who, if you look at who he's worked with, I mean, he has worked with some very, very top people in this industry. He had worked with U2, Madonna, Bjork, Lady Gaga, Coldplay, Moby, and Muse, and I think Oasis and some other people. Okay. And so, he had worked with them, and basically Radiohead played what they had done to that point. They just played it for him. And he basically said, like, yeah, this isn't good, and this just doesn't sound good enough. So it just seems like they weren't kind of up to snuff. And so I couldn't find any more information about that process, but essentially he came in to kind of collaborate with them and produce with them, but that didn't really work out either. Yeah. So what they did is they said, hey, we're good here. And I think what they did was really smart. They then took their stuff out on tour, which forced a couple of things. One, it forced them to finish some songs.
Yeah, so they could play them live. Yeah.
Yeah. And it forced them to then play them live. And, I imagine as any musician, if you're playing songs live that you haven't recorded yet, you're going to work a lot of stuff out.
Oh
right?
My gosh. It's in a way, it is the ideal situation, because by playing it live, I feel like you have time to get through like the basic nuances of the song and get into things that are maybe different that you wouldn't have done first pass, but you do now. Right. And the only example that I can think of is, think of Led Zeppelin when they're playing. There's a live
BBC
video.
Sessions?
No, it's way past that, and they're playing Stairway to Heaven live. And Jimmy Page has this riff when they're up in the kind of the middle register that like you do not hear on the album, and it's so good, and you wish you did hear it on the album because it's so good. But
right,
a lot of times
that
bands
came after playing it live.
Yeah, a lot of bands just go into the studio and record something and then work out the rest of the stuff afterward, which can sometimes be better.
Right. Certainly. So essentially they went and toured and did that, worked out the songs, and then they came back and Nigel was free, and they brought him in. And initially they went to the Tottenham House for 3 weeks. And now this is an interesting place.
I read about that.
Actually, it was not just the Tottenham House, but
this was one of them.
They stayed there, but they didn't stay in there.
Yeah, they kind of live like hermits.
Caravans.
Yeah, like gypsies.
It's a caravan.
Yeah, caravan.
Yeah, because basically Tom said, there were like holes in the floor, rain was coming through the ceilings, and he was like, he even said, he was like, there were basically places in the house you just didn't go.
Dude, it sounds like that place where Tame Impala recorded, doesn't it? Kind of with the holes in the ceiling and everything.
It does.
Yeah,
it does. Power's like
yeah,
going out.
dude,
Things are shorting.
Equipment
It's like,
could be damaged.
Wait a minute. You're the biggest band in the world. Like you can't. There's got to be a better place. Like there has to.
Just something with a roof. I mean, just start there.
It's a good start. So yeah, they recorded there for a couple of weeks. I think they said that they recorded Jigsaw's Falling Into Place and Bodysnatchers. They got those two songs during those sessions. And then they went to another country house. But then another place they went is the Hospital Club. And I had to look this up exactly what that was. But that's where, so there's a studio there. But if anybody's seen their From the Basement videos, that's that place.
Wait, I thought that was Nigel Godrich's basement.
It might be his basement, but not the From the Basement stuff. No, because other people have done From the Basement there. The White Stripes did From the Basement. Queens of the Stone Age has done From the Basement, and so I guess it's all at this place called
Biscuit, dude.
The Hospital Club. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
Radiohead
while we're on
superfans,
the Hospital Club,
yeah.
if you've made it this far, please
like,
go ahead
subscribe, and comment below.
Yeah. So if you've seen that, that's pretty cool. But yeah, so they recorded that. They got the album done, and it was weird. I mean, 2007. The way people were promoting albums and stuff and the way they were doing stuff, they were dropping like little clips on the internet. And even then, you got to remember, streaming then wasn't what it is today.
Yeah.
I don't think, Netflix existed, but I think it was still like mail, like you're getting stuff in the mail.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was, streaming online. It was a limited catalog. And so doing like webcast shows, obviously that's a thing now, but YouTube wasn't what it is today.
Yeah.
People weren't doing that kind of stuff. So it was like they had their From the Basement, but on New Year's Eve they played like this Scotch Mist thing, and that was just a bunch of the songs from the album where they kind of did them live, and it was that's how I remember really like kind of seeing the album and getting into it, because I thought it was pretty badass. So.
It is pretty sweet. For some reason, I remember Tom York playing an SG during this time, but if anyone's out there and you want to comment on that, let me know. I could be wrong. But
might be wrong. I might be wrong.
I don't know, dude. I guess I kind of want to talk about the artwork, because when I read about the artwork, because I've looked at it for many years, but I didn't realize that they had collaborated with Stanley Donwood. For I guess a long time. It says long time.
I think he did all their stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like their Storm Thorgerson, pretty much.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. But I like the way that they talked about this being done, where he experimented with photographic etching and putting prints into acid baths. And throwing wax at paper. And dude, this line was the one that hooked me. Creating images influenced by NASA space photography. Like, dude, that is an awesome, to me, like such an awesome just foundation to have your images based on, is NASA space photography. Like that's cool.
That kind of, it's inspiration is very cool.
Really cool.
to draw from that. And it was weird, because I remember when I kind of first saw the cover for this, it's very unlike any Radiohead cover that we'd had to date.
Dude, I agree. It's unlike any cover, honestly. In my opinion, that I had really of albums that I have, I can't think of anything that looks quite like it. It's really kind of its own thing.
Oh, yeah. It's very different. It's very cool. And I think it's different than anything they've done since. That's for sure. But the cool thing about it, Grim, and I believe it is the box set that you have. They actually won a Grammy for that. I guess that's the thing. They won the Grammy for Best Alternative Album, but they won a Grammy for Best Box Set or Special Edition special limited edition package.
I guess I could see that, because what else came out that year that, dude, seriously?
Well, 2007 was a good year, but
I know, but like for special, I mean, they basically just went ahead and took the gamble, and they were like, all right, look, we realize it's been a while since we've released an album. We kind of think this is a big deal. So we'll just go ahead and make this special edition packaging like it's been out for 30 years, because it's that good. And
you're going to want this.
And dude, it turns out they were right. I mean,
they were right.
What else do you say?
However, yeah, I'm still waiting for my Kid Amnesia special edition 3 cream color disc set, because apparently it's sitting off, the coast of LA.
And I hate to rub this in again and just show it, but like, dude, I got that in 2007, and I had the record player, but I wasn't really listening to records that much at that point. And it wasn't until like probably 6 or 7 years later that I really started like getting the record collection going and like listening to records actively. And I pulled that out, and I was like, holy shit, I have this. Like, yeah. I completely forgot about it at that point.
Dude, that's pretty great, man. Yeah. It's like, yeah, because I mean, back then, especially in 2007, we weren't as flush as we are right now. We didn't have a podcast to make all the
Oh my gosh, yeah, for sure. And so I pulled it out and immediately asked myself,
what the fuck is that shit?
Not just for air.
Yeah. So I don't know. You want to move into the tracks? I feel like
I think we're definitely ready to get into the tracks. 10
tracks. I mean, it's
yeah, they did record 16, and they put it down to 10. And Tom York, he really said that, he wanted to make in Rainbows like a 45-minute statement, and that's essentially
I read that because he said something like he felt the rock album as an artistic statement said something, and I was just like, that really resonates with me, because I think that music is really commoditized these days.
Yeah.
I mean, it's people don't appreciate it. Just like we say in the beginning of the podcast, people don't appreciate an album for what it truly is. And like what it took to make that. And it
fits a time, and it fits a time and place, and
I don't know. Somebody I know said it kind of defines a band.
It does.
Yeah,
it does. It
a little bit.
Defines a band.
A little bit,
or even a lot of it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So,
and so I definitely think, to me, this is one of those. I won't say a concept album like I would consider OK Computer or Kid A, but it's a tight album, and it has the same. To me, throughout it has a very similar feel to it.
I agree, and I think equally as important as any of the previous 2 albums, because of what it did to the music industry.
Certainly, yeah, it did. It did.
So. With that 15-step, dude.
Well, so yeah, this song starts the album, and I know that's one thing for you and I, and I'm sure most Radiohead fans who are like, oh my God, you're putting it on for the first time, right? And you're like, oh, I wonder how they're going to start it, because it was like, you start off OK Computer with this, crazy roaring guitar, and then Kid A's got the synth from everything in its right place.
Do you do?
And you think Hail to the Thief, like the plugging in to the amp or whatever, right?
That's
and so
right.
To me, it's like, oh my gosh, like,
what are you going to do?
This, and you're like, where's this album going to go? And so I just thought the way it kind of starts is very different than any way that they've started an album. Yeah. And so essentially, though, initially they were going to, for like the hand claps and stuff. I don't know if you read about this. They went to like the Matrix Music School and Art Center in Oxford, and they had the children like do the claps and all this stuff. apparently that didn't really work out. It wasn't usable.
Dude.
So they had them do like the cheering in the background, which is pretty cool.
The cheer,
right?
I was going to mention that. I think the cheering in the background is amazing. The hand claps, I'm sorry, they'll always sound better on the 808 or the 909, which I think they did. But yeah, I think the cheering is a really, I don't know how to say it. There's something about like when you have a rock album and you hear it like children's voices for whatever the reason may be, it kind of brings it to a different.
Not in a creepy way.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. It's just interesting.
Well, did you see? Have you seen the performance that they did at the Grammys with this song with the USC marching band?
No, I have not.
Dude, okay, so oh my god. So first of all, if anybody out there hasn't seen it, just get on YouTube after you're done watching this video and check it out. Yeah, it's absolutely badass. Like, it is amazing. But it's just Tom and Johnny, because Radiohead's one of those bands where like, we don't want to play Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We don't want recognition. But they did go, Tom and Johnny went for this, and they got the whole USC marching band to be in the background on stage with them and play it. And so years ago, when I looked it up, you could only get like this really kind of not good recording because of copyright issues and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Since then, apparently a couple good versions are up there. Now, I don't know if this is copyright infringement or not. I'm not here to judge that. But if you look up Radiohead Grammys 15 step, like, it'll come up. And dude, it's an amazing, it's a really, really cool performance. At the end of it, everybody gives them a standing ovation. It was just unbelievably impressive.
Dude, I gotta watch that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. But going to the song itself, there's just a couple lyrics that really stand out to me. The first words are, how come I end up where I started? How come I end up where I belong? I think those are really cool words. And then, but I think my favorite ones though are you used to be all right. What happened?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just something about that. I was always like, oh man, because people change, right?
Yeah.
And things happen, and it's like, oh man, you used to be all right. What happened?
Yeah, I know. I get it. And for me, I don't know. I always felt like the album started out kind of abrasive with the beat, but at the same point, like, I like beat boxes, and I can understand why you'd want to just thunder in with that. And one thing I will say about the guitar sound on this song, and it carries throughout the album for me.
It does.
Dude,
I love it.
The guitar tone is really good. And I think that for some of it, Tom York was playing this like old hollow body guitar.
Okay.
Which is, I think, how some of the sound for the next song, Bodysnatchers, was derived, because I recorded a band at one point, and the lead singer and guitarist had this hollow body electric, and dude, you could make that thing feedback in a way, and like just make these like tones that you just couldn't get, I hadn't heard out of anything else, like not any just regular electric guitar. And I felt like he was using that sort of guitar on the album, although I have no proof to substantiate that. So if anyone knows, please go ahead
like,
and
subscribe and comment below.
Well, and that might be one thing, checking out, and I know sometimes bands will play live, they'll play a little different than they record on the album.
Yeah.
But, check out the From the Basement, and I'm sure that, you'll be able to see
pretty,
kind of what maybe he's using and stuff. But so I guess, moving on to Bodysnatchers, this song is, to me, is the loudest, kind of just
awesome.
nastiest song on the album.
Yeah. Dude, the guitar
sounds
just amazing. Oh.
Yeah. What did he say? Like, it was inspired by Victorian ghost stories, the 1972 novel, The Stepford Wives, and York's feeling of your physical consciousness trapped without being able to connect fully with anything else. So
Okay.
I'd say that about
So
something.
yeah, you got that. Yeah.
Dude, so one thing I'll say, and I learned a lot, I've listened to this album hundreds of times, probably, and so playing it and with the words like on Spotify or whatever, it's so interesting. You hear some of these lyrics and I'm like, oh my God, I've been singing that wrong for the past, 14 years. I know. You just don't know what he's saying sometimes. But one of the lyrics I never picked up on that is just absolutely amazing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, not that.
Okay. What?
Dude, your mouth moves only with someone's hand up your ass.
Oh, wow. I guess I never picked up on that lyric.
It kind of drifts off at the end, and it is a little more in the background. But I was like, wow.
Once you know what he says, it's like you can't unhear it.
Yeah, can't unhear it. Yeah. So,
wow.
But definitely, I think to me, this is the rawest, kind of harshest song on the album.
Yeah, I agree.
And now track number 3 couldn't be more than a farther contrast to that.
No,
right?
and we talked about this a little bit offline, and it's tough because for a lot of Radiohead fans, if you had watched Meeting People Is Easy and you heard them playing this like during their sound check and Tom's on the roads, I mean, it's just a different song. And but the thing is, I really love the version they put on the album too. I just wish there was some way they could have like intermingled those, even if it was like sampling the roads and like fucking with it a little bit. I would have been okay with that, but that sound to me is so critical to it.
So yeah, I will say I prefer the version on Meeting People Is Easy. For Nude.
I do too, dude.
But I think back then it was even called like, what is it? Like he makes a joke about
big
it. Like,
ideas don't get any.
Big ideas don't get any, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
no, I know, and I think
weird
that
because this song is so pessimistic and kind of sad. It's like, don't get any big ideas. They're not going to happen. Now that you found it, it's gone. Now that you feel it, you've gone off the rails. I mean, it's it's a little bleak.
Yeah, it is. But there's something about, I don't know, in my mind, you could combine a version of like the two of what they did and it could be amazing. But anyways,
could be amazing.
I digress and we go on.
Amazing, dude. Weird fishes. Is it Arpeggi?
Arpeggi, yeah. Like an arpeggio. Because
arpeggio.
Yeah, it's like an arpeggio.
I figured. So, dude, I really like the groove that this song gets into. That's one of the things I just love about it, man.
The drum beat at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
this is one of the first songs after I listened to the album once or twice. I found myself kind of starting with this one for some reason, just being like, oh man, there was just like, I had like a couple single songs that I liked. And this is one of the ones there's
something
really
about this song. I mean,
dude, the guitar is just really, it has this nice smooth sound to it. Kind of a longer intro.
Yeah.
Dude, I love the way his vocals just,
I do too.
Throughout this album, his vocals differ. And that's one thing I do love about Tom York and the way he sings. He has a very unique voice, but he's able to sing. He's able to go falsetto.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. It's very different, unlike anything I've ever heard. And I think people who actually don't like Radiohead, that's probably one of the things they don't like.
I agree. Now, one thing I was thinking about Tom York that I think is interesting is, for a lot of the things that he sings, there's a good deal of space behind it, right? Like his voice is spacey. And I think about that and I'm like, it goes so well with his voice. But then there's people who sing and almost 100% of the time, they don't have any space. So think about like Stephen Malkmus from Pavement. Every time that dude sings, there is never any space. There's no effects behind his voice. It's like totally dry and plain all the time. And it's like the weirdest dichotomy of people because I can't imagine Tom York's voice without the space.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a sense, a lot of times they use his voice and just kind of the flow and the sound of it is like, it's like an instrument in itself.
Yeah. Like Yoko Ono.
The way it meshes. Exactly. And her screaming and stuff. But the way it kind of meshes with the music sometimes is it's like you're one with the band.
Yeah. Now all I need, dude.
All I need.
Now,
well, this is a good time to do a little plug for our previous episode that we did. Do you remember that, Grim?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The songs of the same name. So check that out.
Exactly. With Air.
Yeah.
But yeah, this song, it's this dark kind of sexy
and
song.
Synthy. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's got, dude. Now that fuzz, is that bass or is that synth?
I think it's synth by the way it sustains and kind of.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but I didn't know if if they're running it through something. But that is definitely
the way it sustains and just holds. I feel like it's synth, but I like how they get the piano in there, and I don't know. There's things that kind of make it different, but it's still a Radiohead song. You know what I mean?
You can go back. Yeah, the sustain. You can go back, have a bite, and come back.
Right? You're still going there. Yeah. Now, dude, Faust Arp. I'd really like to understand the meaning there. I assume arp is like arpeggio again because of the way they're playing it. But the whole Faust part, I don't know what that's in reference to. There was a band that's kind of considered like a krautrock band called Faust, and they were, a little out there, and so I can't take that reference into this song or the lyrics for this song. But what I like about it is just how it's so soft and acoustic, and I believe it's just acoustic guitar and strings and voices.
Yeah, that's what I think it is too. And I remember reading about this song years and years and years ago. And maybe this is how they did it, and maybe I'm completely wrong. But I believe that they actually went outside, Tom and Johnny, like way out into the yard or whatever when they were recording at one of these houses. And they just set up a mic, recorded the acoustic, and recorded the vocals like right there outside. I could be wrong. I might be wrong. I swear I remember reading that. Because I know when they did I talked earlier about the Scotch Mist thing that they aired on they actually, the performance of this song, that's actually how they show it on the little program that they did.
Sweet. And it sounds like the studio recording of it. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds really good. So, yeah.
Now, by contrast, Reckoner, when they get into that, to me, that almost sounds like with the way the drums sound and the tambourine and everything when that first comes in like this room, it almost sounds like that Motown sound to me.
No, that it does for sure. And I had read that they actually had a song that they were working on called Pulled Apart by Horses,
like Quarter.
And Tom is exactly. Yeah. And Tom has actually put that on one of his solo albums. But that was kind of developed, or Reckoner was developed kind of from this song. And if you listen to it, it's very different. Like, it doesn't sound like it at all. But there is some underlying things where you're like, okay, I could see how that kind of came out of that. I guess a little bit. But
that's
for me, this is another song that I gravitated towards right away.
It
might be might be my favorite.
The way the guitar
is
picked,
it's just has this inviting tone and sound to it. It's like this
very melancholy
sexiness too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about House of Cards? House of Cards kind of has a, as you would call, sexiness to it, but in a bit of a different way.
Well, and that's the thing, man. I love how Reckoner or House of Cards follows Reckoner, because I'm like, dude, it might be my two favorite songs on the album, and I just think they go together so well.
I know, but it's weird because the sound of Reckoner is really big and echoey, and the sound of House of Cards is not. It's very right here. I guess there's some vocal parts that have that echo, but to me, the instrumentation doesn't, anyways.
Right, they're definitely different. But to me, the emotion and the feel behind the song is that they're so closely related. Because again, I feel like it's this kind of sad, sexy song. It's like, dude, I don't want to be your friend. I want to to be your lover. Yeah. I mean, dude. All right.
No matter how it ends,
in that situation,
no matter how it starts. Yeah.
You know. Yeah. It's so. I just feel like it's such sort of, to me, a kind of a simple song.
Oh yeah. And, agreed.
But it's so well done. And that's what I love about a band like this is they can make some amazing, complex, crazy song like Paranoid Android. And then you have a song like this, which is completely different and just as beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it's fantastic.
Now, what about number 9? Jigsaw falling into place? To me, Jigsaw falling into place should go after House of Cards, and it does. Because to me, if you listen to the lyrics, it sounds almost like the dark side of the same thing happening, like the dark version.
It's the flip side.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I got you. Sure. That makes sense.
Because House of Cards it seems more like random and, oh, this is so great, this is supposed to happen. But Jigsaw falling into place is just like you were kind of just doing your thing, and, you know, that's where you ended up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I think no, absolutely. I mean, Tom York says something. He's like, it's like the idea of kind of like before you're comatose or whatever, drinking yourself into oblivion and getting fucked up to forget. There's it partially has this kind of, you have this elated feeling.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But he says, but there's a much darker side,
and that's what I'm saying. That's true. Yeah.
So
now Videotape.
Videotape. I think this is the perfect song for the end. I think it's probably the only place you could put it. It definitely has. Oh gosh, what would I say? It's got this, the slow, sad feel to it. But I love some of the lyrics. This is one for the good days.
Yeah.
My favorite line in the song, and one of my favorite lines of any Radiohead songs, "You are my center when I spin away." Like, dude, it's just like we all have that person that kind of grounds us in life.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was, I really like the phrasing of that a lot.
All right, dude, you're on the tee then. In that case, what is your scratch? I would really like to know.
This is obviously is a tough one. We got 10 tracks here. It's possible we go into overtime. I don't know. Of course, it's a hard choice, but I'm actually going to go with Nude.
Okay.
It is one song that if I do listen to the album, I am prone to skipping, mainly because I do want to get to Weird Fishes. And so it's just, I mean,
can't blame
I also like the version on Meeting People Is Easy just better.
I know.
So
I do too.
That's that.
I do too. Well,
what do you got?
Dude, it would actually be 15 Step. And it's always, it's always been 15 Step.
I know.
And it's not a bad song. I mean, I will say the beat does seem sort of abrupt the way it comes in for a Radiohead album, just based on how things have been, in the past. But the thing is,
so you're going to start the album with Bodysnatchers.
Oh, dude, that just just that guitar sound, I would have no problem if an album started like that. But the thing is, I don't hate 15 steps, so don't take it as such.
Yeah.
It's just like, if it were to start with Bodysnatchers and end with Videotape, I would not be upset. And then you could throw 15 step on the second disc too. Because Mark 1's only 1 minute, 3 seconds.
So I can let that play. Because I think starting with Bodysnatchers, I think I can see the album starting that way.
It's such an awesome song.
It is. The only hair I'm going to split with that is I don't know if that would be, I don't know. When I think of how an album starts, I don't know if that fits the rest of the album and the mood of the rest of the album.
But does
now
15
I can see
step? I mean, come on. If we're gonna split hairs, split them.
There are some elements within 15 step that you do that are sprinkled throughout the rest of the album, whereas Bodysnatchers I do feel like is more of a standalone.
Disagree, man. Bodysnatchers gets into its own weird part too, just like fucking All I Need or any of this other shit.
Yeah.
I think. But anyways,
yeah.
Again, we're not here to split hairs, so
yeah, that's what the super fans are for.
Yeah, they'll split.
And I'm still trying to look up that whole color wheel thing. It's confusing. Yeah, it really is. It is. So, all right. Well, I think that about scratches Radiohead's In Rainbows.
I do.
Grim.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us. Much obliged.
Yes. Let us know what track you would scratch. Let us know your favorite track, and let us know if you think Radiohead's going to come out with another album, because I really want them to.
And will it be better or not as good as In Rainbows? Just another question.
Or any of the other ones.
Time to go.
Dude and Grim Show.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's ... MORE. And the Tims. TIMNZ. Copyright 2020. The Dude and Grim Show.